So I'm flipping through the new listings the other day, and I noticed a house hit the market last week that is a house that I sold when I just started in real estate back in 2017. And it's the most fascinating thing to me, how things have evolved over the past. I mean, I've been doing this since 2016, so we're 7 years into this now. And when I got in, things were what we all considered to be a normal market, and things started accelerating. And I thought this gave some really good context, and it was kind of not to age myself, or date myself, but I wanted to kind of take a look back at what the market looked like here in Buffalo in 2016 and how it's changed. And it's been dramatic. So just, I mean, diving into it, we're gonna make some gross generalizations here, using specifically data. I'm using averages here, back looking at December 2016 when I started versus today. The average sale price in Erie County for a single family residence in December of 2016 was $152,700, and just this past month we're looking at $241,590. That is bonkers appreciation. So the specific example that we're using here, it's a house on School Street in the village of Lancaster. I went to Lancaster High School. I know Lancaster well. And like I said, in 2007, it wasn't actually my listing back then, because when you're a new real estate agent, you don't get a ton of listings. But my boss at the time had listed this house, and I kind of walked with him hand in hand and ran open houses and became intimately familiar with this house. In August of 2017, this house, we put it on the market for $185,000. It is a 4-bed, 2 full bath, 1,700 square foot house. We put it on the market for $185,000. It sat on the market for almost a month before we dropped the price $5,000 to $180,000, and it eventually sold after being on the market for 2 months for $160,000. That was considered the normalcy of listing a house. You knew you were going to be on the market for several weeks. You priced it high in such a way that if somebody came in and negotiated with you, you still had some wiggle room, and that was to be expected. And that was kind of the end of that market. Mid 2018, maybe the beginning of 2019 is when what you're probably used to seeing is multiple offers on every house, and everyone's getting rid of their contingencies and all of that, we'll say madness. So this house last week hits the market for $265,000. Same exact house. I looked at the pictures. They didn't do much to it. It's not like they put in a brand new $50,000 kitchen or anything. That's just how much a house has appreciated. I still consider that normal. I think that what happened in 2017 and that, I mean, we here in Western New York, we always saw relatively slow appreciation. In the grand scheme of things go up, but it's certainly not as rapidly as we've seen them as of late. And this might be a little nostalgic for people that bought and sold houses prior to 2017, because they're used to seeing this. But the fact of the matter is, in 2018 and 2019, that's when we saw the interest rates go down. Because houses were selling so quickly, the inventory started to go down. I mean, inventory is all-time low, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But the moral of the story is there were a bunch of houses on the market. People had plenty of things to choose from here in the village of Lancaster. It just took the right person to come along and say, this house works for me at $160,000, even though you're asking $180,000. I know they did a home inspection. That stuff all went on. Because interest rates got so cheap and because inventory got so low, it makes sense why things appreciated so rapidly. A little more context for you. December 2016 in Erie County, single family residences. There are 3,156 of them on the market, active for sale. Right now, well, this past month, there are 1,232. That is less than a third of the houses available. So we're not talking just there's less houses. This is, where are all of the houses? Like this is my point with that is, if 123 Main Street goes on the market and it gets 10 bids, only one person can buy it. So that means 9 people still remain in the market. They just lost. So they're going to change their strategy up a little bit. They're going to get a little bit more competitive. Two more buyers enter the market. So now you have 9 of the people you were competing against on the last house move over to 456 Main Street. You have 2 new buyers that also enter the market, and it remains just as competitive. When I see this rapid appreciation, one thing that will stall this rapid appreciation is interest rates soaring, and nobody wants that. That's not good for anybody. It's not good for the economy. None of that. If more houses hit the market, that's what's going to level this out in a predictable, stable, non-negative impact way. So let's look at another example of a specific house that I've helped people buy and sell here in Western New York, specifically on Hoyt Street in the west side. Some clients of mine buy a double, 3-3 double for $178,000, 2019. I know they didn't do that much to it. It did get a brand new roof at that time, so there was big capital improvement there. But we go back to, we buy it in 2019 for $178,000. In 2022, we sell it for $295,000, which is $15,000 over the asking price. Only put a new roof on it. We raised the rents. They raised the rents slightly from $675 for both to $750 and $800 respectively. Still low for 22, like really low. Like those were definitely $1,000 apartments. But it speaks to the idea that investors saw the appreciation happening, willing to pay top dollar, even though they have to go through the legwork of raising the rents. And could we have seen that type of rapid appreciation in 2019 when they bought it for 178? Maybe they were hoping to get 200 for it in a few years. We did not see 295 coming. It just wasn't happening. And again, it's in 2019, nobody saw the rents on the west side going much higher than 675, 700, but because they actually did, that's what causes this appreciation. Tenants aren't going to like this conversation, but it is true. This is why you see this rapid appreciation. I just said rapid appreciation like 5 times in a row. And one more for our North Buffalo fans in 2017. How about a double? Now, I didn't have any involvement with this. I just randomly pulled this one out of the ML. But how about a 3-3 double on North Park that sells for $245,000 with $10,000 in seller concessions? So real quick math on that. That means, so the not only is that cheap to buy a double in North Buffalo, that's now could easily be rented out for $1,650 a month for one of these apartments, but the closing cost to buy these, they offset by $10,000. Like the seller's concession, it's rare. You basically have to have an off-market deal these days in 2023 to be able to effectively use seller concessions. But these people that, like, you should have bought every double you could have with max seller concessions in 2017 in North Buffalo. You could probably retire right now. So that's just a fun little one. This one has not since sold. I would probably put this at 360, 370, somewhere in there. And again, that's 2017 to 2023. To kind of wrap all of these thoughts together, do I think the market's going to crash? No. I think that, I mean, I happen to get into real estate at a time when Buffalo and Western New York was seeing this economic, but they'd seen it for a couple of years, but the home values weren't following the salaries, the increases in salaries we've seen around here. It took the home prices a minute to catch up. There was like this little renaissance period where salaries were going up, things got way more affordable for people, and then the home prices started to creep up. We couldn't have seen that then. I mean, no one's got a crystal ball. Hindsight's 2020. Now we know, like I just said, you should have bought every double in North Buffalo with max concessions that you could. Some people did. Good on you. That being said, what I think happens here, there's no question that I think we have to be getting towards a rent ceiling here. I think this crazy rapid appreciation, if it goes on for the next 3, 5, 7 years, that's where I think this gets a little scary, in my opinion. I think it caught up. I think what's happened here, I mean, you look, I mean, we're still, the average sale price of a home in Western New York is still below the state average. It's still below the national average. I think it's going to remain below both of those things. But I think we've kind of hit this sweet spot now. I did sit North Buffalo double specifically. I've kind of seen them level out at 330, 350, 360 for a nice one in like the prime areas. But like, for example, I know a guy that I don't know exactly what year he bought it. I think it was 2014, 2015. It was before I was in real estate, but he's told me many times he was losing sleep over buying a North Buffalo double for $100,000. Losing sleep. Because no one knew what the market was going to do then. No North Buffalo double had sold for $100,000 at that time, and it felt a little uncomfortable. But in 10 years, that house has tripled in value. This is a long-winded way of saying nobody knows what the future is going to hold. Could the market go down from what you're buying at now? Sure. Does it historically always go up? Yes. It's easy to fall into the headlines. It's easy to listen to your parents' advice from a house they bought in 1980 that this all seems crazy. As somebody that's eating, breathing, and sleeping this stuff on a daily basis since 2016, it makes sense to me. So whether you're a buyer or a seller, this is a good time to do either of those things. And that's not just Johnny the realtor trying to sell houses here. This is, I mean, there's no question that houses are selling for a premium. Being able to exit now you're probably going to be way up from where you bought at. We like that. Purchasing a house, I don't think this is so out of control that you're going to see rapid depreciation. If you buy a house, let's say you buy a single family house for $200,000, I don't think you're going to see that value drop to 125 grand rapidly anytime soon. The interest rates are kind of the only factor there, and perhaps you've heard a bunch of people talking about interest rates. The fact of the matter is, if you're buying a house based on the monthly payment, and you know that's comfortable for you, it will go up some over time because taxes are going to go up. But if you're locking an interest rate right now, the rapid spikes in rent prices, you're protecting yourself from that regardless. Will your payment go up marginally over time? Sure. Do I know people whose rent payments are going up $200, $300, $400 a month on very short notice? Oh yeah, yep. And if the interest rates go back down, you can always refinance. And that's kind of a cop-out easy thing to say, but it is true. If you buy now and interest rates go up, you made the right decision. If they go down, you can refi. That's the beauty of this whole thing. So the rapid appreciation does not scare me. If you can sell and just maybe you're relocating or what have you, and you're just selling, this is an excellent time. Is it true that if you sell and you make a bunch of money, you pretty much have to turn around and just give that to the seller of the next house that you're purchasing? Sure. But you still have quite a bit of leverage as the seller of your current property, and quite a bit of benefit built in there. And as a buyer, it's a wealth building tool. If you have never been a homeowner, or you haven't been a homeowner in a long time, and you can plant your roots somewhere, you absolutely should. And even if you're like, I don't want to mow the lawn and push the snow around and stuff like that, either subcontract it out or go get something with an HOA. Paying this 15, 16, I know people paying $2,200, $2,300 a month in rent. I wouldn't be doing that if I was you. So we're getting started talking about this stuff in maybe a longer format here on YouTube. I'd love if you subscribed and followed along. I also do a bunch of short form content with kind of tips and tricks and that sort of thing. We'll be uploading these to YouTube Shorts, but TikTok, Instagram, my Facebook account, you name it, I'm on there. Johnny Sells Houses, JOHNNY, for both TikTok and Instagram, and then Johnny Wagner on Facebook. Give me a follow. We have some fun. We're talking about Buffalo real estate. We're talking about real estate in general. And come join the conversation.